Hi, it's Cherokee. I'm going to be starting a new segment of my channel on communication. Someone that I'm friends with told me about a group discussion that she was in recently, in which the topic was are men babies when they get sick? Something like this is an age-old topic that I feel like people have been talking about since the 80s and the 90s, and it always comes back. Are men babies when they get sick? And then what I found interesting was that she said the discussion got pretty heated, and I'm like, really? Like, after all these years? And it just got me thinking again about communication and what I've been noticing a lot lately within the social media realm is how people have been communicating with each other. And one of the things I've noticed is people are not being very kind to each other when they're communicating. And a lot of that I know is born of a certain level of frustration. It's a high level of frustration that the individual's been experiencing, usually for a long period of time, and then they get to the point where they're about to burst, or they are perhaps feeling misunderstood for a very long period of time, and they're seeking for others to understand them um, and to believe in them and to accept them, and that kind of thing. And so of course there's a lot of passion in wanting to be heard and wanting to express ourselves. Now, I'm the kind of person that believes every person has the right to express themselves in whatever way they see fit. I have the right to listen or not to listen. And I think that's where people tend to get tripped up. And I think that's where the cancel culture comes from. You hear something you don't like, and instead of turning the channel or moving away from that individual or leaving or whatever, you sit there and silently seethe in anger, and then people get angry and they come back with angry words, to which the recipient or someone who identifies as the recipient has more angry words. And I see it really, it's gotten really bad. I would use the word toxic because it's just something that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. People hurtling angry language back at each other and name calling. And I mean, what's the point? What are you getting out of this? You're expressing your dissatisfaction, okay. But when you're done, do you feel any happier? No. Now you're going to look for the next target of your anger, you see. So it doesn't go away. Your anger and your feeling of being misunderstood does not go away just because you start the process of lashing out at people that you feel are your enemy. So I thought it'd be a good idea to begin having discussions on communication. So I'm going to do that because I believe that when you see something that you don't like, yes, you have to be the change if you want to uh, see a change in your own life. But if we see, in this case, massive amounts of people hurting themselves or not feeling happy, not feeling fulfilled, angry all the time, and I just don't know what do you hope to achieve out of that? What are we going to come away with from that? How is that going to benefit us? How is all the yelling and the screaming at each other going to benefit us, right? So it's a good thing to get your frustrations out. That's a healthy and positive thing. But then that's not where we stop. If we forever just keep attacking people that say something that we don't like to hear, that's going to be our battle for the rest of our life. There's always going to be people that are going to disagree with us on different topics, and are going to tell us things that we don't like. You don't have to respond at all. You don't have to respond in like kind. You don't have to respond in an angry fashion. You could just simply keep swiping. Like, it's just, And so I'm going to talk about some of the different facets of communication, um, in hopes that it will reach some listening ears. I think after screaming and yelling for a couple of years, Maybe people want a break. Maybe they're ready to hear it. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm just going to speak my truth and release it into the YouTube verse slash universe. And then hopefully those that are of like mind and would like to feel better about the way in which they communicate, which can bring you a certain level of happiness, will benefit from it. So when I wasn't always a good communicator. I think I'm an amazing communicator, by the way. And I'll tell you why. It's something that I have studied, read about, and actively worked to change about myself. Many years ago, when I was like in my teens, I realized that I felt like people were taking advantage of me. And I knew it was because I was too scared to say no. I didn't feel comfortable saying no. And because I didn't feel comfortable saying no, I then felt obligated to do things that people were asking me to do, that I didn't want to do, didn't have time, that kind of thing. And I thought it would benefit me to learn how to improve on my communication. Because I would watch these people and I'm like, these people look like they're totally fine. I feel like they have the time to do their own things. Why don't I have the power to speak up for myself, or the strength to say what I want? I didn't want to look like I was the bad guy. I didn't want to look like I was uncooperative. And those were some of the feelings that were holding me back. And so I came across someone who was writing. She was writing something down, and I asked her, "What are you writing?" And she told me that she was wanting to have a conversation with a coworker at her job. Now, again, I'm a teenager, and this person was like in her 20s. And the coworker had been treating her kind of condescendingly, and she hadn't been saying anything to that individual because that individual had a close connection with the boss, and she was just, not comfortable speaking up at that time. But then it got to a point where she was like, you know what, I'm going to need to address this. So she was writing all of this out. So I asked her, like, so what are you writing? What do you plan on saying? So she told me she was writing out all of her thoughts, like all of her concerns, all the issues that she had, in other words, and specific examples of what the person had said to her and that bothered her. And she wrote out her response to those issues. And she told me that the reason she was doing that is because she didn't want to leave anything out. And she wanted to make sure that this issue was addressed wholly and completely because it had been bothering her for some time. And in that moment, I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to, there's an expression nowadays, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. But back then, that's what I wanted. I felt I wanted the strength. You can even call it power that comes with, I would use the term emotional intelligence today in how you handle your problems. And it's directly related to communication, how we communicate, when we communicate, because we can communicate not only with our words, which is the most obvious way, we also communicate with our body language, how we stand, the faces that we make, some of the sounds we can utter. If we're displeased with something, we don't have to say actual words. We could make certain sounds, that will communicate how we feel. And so I feel it's important that we have more real, honest, heartfelt conversations on communication and how I, as the individual who would like to learn how to speak up for myself, how do I do it? How do I start? How do I have a conversation with someone on a very difficult topic? How do I have a conversation with a family member or a friend or a teacher or even your husband? Now, there's a man on YouTube named Kevin Samuels, and he taught, he's passed away, and he was trying to help people, men and women, understand each other a bit more. And so that they can be in wholesome relationships and not have so many negative beliefs about each other. He didn't want everybody to just be single and die alone. You know, he believed that people can have a happy and long-term relationship, and that's what he tried to do. A lot of people didn't appreciate his approach, but a lot of people did appreciate his approach. And you know, he inspired me at that time to start talking about communication, which I didn't, but I'm gonna start now because I've been feeling it more and more, and I'm like, you know what, I think it's time. So we're gonna do that. But it's definitely something that I think is sorely needed, and it's an important skill to learn. And that's it for now. I'm just putting this out there for now, committing myself. And here we go. Watch the next video.